Welcome to Buckets. I am your host, Jim Turvey at Turvey Bets. I am joined for this Wednesday Best Bets episode of Buckets, your place for everything you want betting the NBA. I'm joined by Michael Fiddlesticks, on what is a pretty wonky Wednesday slate. We're going to get you some best bets. We're going to do all that. We're going to have some fun. It's the weird time of the season. Hopefully we can get a little weird. But Fiddle, I wanted to lead by saying we are two WNBA fans. I'm wearing the W hoodie tonight. Are you looking forward to the season? We got a little bit of like Paige Beckers in the Final Four right now. We'll get to the NBA in a second, but are you excited for this upcoming season?
Massively excited for the W and this stretch of the NBA season. It's funny because I've been having the same conversations with other people about I couldn't be more excited for the W because we look at the games and we're like, what do these games mean as we have Pacers and Hornets and Rockets and Jazz tomorrow night. So it's just like it's been some tough sledding in some of these spots in April. You could find some situational spots to sink your teeth into. There were some on the Tuesday card. There are some coming up that'll have major playoff implications. You could almost bet them as a playoff game. But in terms of looking at the NBA schedule, I'm like, I can only stop thinking about W. I'm like wearing my Nafisa Collier stuff around.
Yeah.
I'm ordering more gear. I've like got all the fever tickets you could possibly want in futures markets. And I don't even do futures, but I'm glad to have scooped those up. So yeah, I could not be more excited for the W.
Absolutely love it. Let's use that to transition into best bets. I will circle back to a few. There's a couple of topics because it's a weird slate. Figure we can kind of banter it up a little bit at some point, but let's go. We're in the Tommy John home studio here. I'm wearing the Tommy John sweats as always. Basically, let's get some of those. We're gonna be sweating these bets. That's gonna be the case on Wednesday. So, what is your best bet for the slate?
I have two, Jim. I'm gonna go with Mavericks -4 and the Pacers Hornets over 225.
All right. My best bet is going to be, we'll talk about how ugly this slate is, how you basically can't avoid double-digit favorites here. I'm going to take one of those double-digit favorites. I'm going to take the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're laying 14 points against the Detroit Pistons. Going to lay it. We'll talk through why exactly. But Fiddle, talk to me about your picks first. Let's start with the over/under you're looking at first.
Really, this is just my numbers run for this to be 226, 225.8 to be exact. So opening market was 223.5. You start to see the lines move over. You have 225 still on the board. And even though LaMelo Ball is going to miss the rest of the season, that's all factored in. You saw Bridges still have a great performance offensively. Seth Curry still be ruled in. The Charlotte Hornets are locked into a bottom 4 worst record in the NBA. So they could actually start focusing on development and trying to implement some of the styles that Charles Lee wants to play, which is going to be high pace and high volume of threes. That's what they've done all season. So if they start to just move the ball in transition, should be a Pacers high offense versus Charlotte looking to move the pace. And I think Charlotte historically this season has been a slower team, and I'm expecting that to really ramp up, and we're starting to see that. So it's kind of an angle that I'm expecting to play pretty regularly. We just saw it in their last game against the Utah Jazz. The total steamed up 3 points in the late market. So I noticed those things. I recognize those patterns. I believe this is one of those spots too, but because my number's at 226-ish, I really wouldn't press it beyond the 225 that it's at currently. So hoping the number stays there through the overnight market and is available when this episode drops.
I really like the point you made about coaches of tanking teams using this to like really start to implement their system. I mean, we've seen the Jazz. Walker Kessler is like shooting like 8 threes a game sometimes. This is the perfect time to catch on to little things like that. But actually, it feeds into I'll get to your other pick in a second. We'll get to mine as well. But I wanted to ask you about, because you're a very unique bettor in that you use the market to guide. Like, what does that look like this time of year? Like, is it from an outside, it drives like when I'm trying to do bets on like player props, and then guys get middle of the day, they come out of nowhere and they're questionable, or guys who were doubtful or something. But it's pure chaos. But is this actually a time the market is even more leverageable? How does that look like for your betting this time of year?
No, it's a great question, Jim. I speak about this often, that like March is historically an inefficient month for the market. Yeah. And when I say that, like, When I mean inefficient, I'm saying the side that gains closing line value from open to close doesn't hit at the same rates as it hits in December and January, where you might be clearing 55, 56% if you have, a lot of plus CLV tickets, and you're constantly going to be in the in a black or in the green with these plus EV positions. When you get to March, it's still good to have the CLV. You will still clear north of the 52.38 if your weighted odds are minus 110 to be profitable. And I actually did have a great March, but it felt lucky. And it felt like even this season, the injury reporting is like total bullshit. I think we're at the point now where teams are ducking it, like Michael Porter Jr. tonight in the game that's about to happen, Wolves Nuggets. He was just a late scratch for personal reasons. And I'm not trying to throw shade at MPJ because maybe he's actually dealing with something. But this is the fourth time we've had a late scratch personal reasons. We've had a Zion, we've had a Marketing, we've had Giannis, we've had now MPJ. And these are huge needle movers. So sometimes you can start to sense what's good. Like Karl Anthony Towns today, when he was ruled out, the line didn't move. It stayed at 219 and it stayed at Knicks minus 12 and a half, 13 or whatever. The market foreshadowed that was coming. There's other ones right now that are just completely oblivious and you get swept off your feet. So if you're tracking the market and you're in a good position for 18 hours before the start of the game because I'm process not results, and then all of a sudden it's wow, I would want to do anything but have this ticket. The whole screen's locked. I can't dump off of this, and now I just need to get lucky. So it's you could probably hear it in my voice. There's been moments of frustration despite it being a really good March. It's just again, I'm process not results, and the process didn't match what other ones, even though the results were totally exceeded my expectations.
Well, and we all know that sometimes the news gets out there before the report, right? Do you kind of see at a sharp book, does it start to move and you're like, oh, I got to go on this other one to buy out of my position? Or is there are there head fakes to that too? And are the head fakes worse this time of year? Is it just entirely a nightmare?
All of the above. Yeah. You start to know it would be really nuanced to get into. So maybe I don't know, we could maybe get into some of it, but there are certain books that you notice have lower limits for a max bet. And so, a group will probably bet max. Circa, for example, doesn't take a ton of NBA action. So when they get a max bet, it'll move the line 2 points. And then the entire rest of the board will move 2 points because they're moving on air respective to a sharp book. And then what will happen on the flip side is that same group will then bet 10x, 20x the other way across all of the other books that they could actually get more money down on. It just gets whacked the other way. And so sometimes you see it go up and then go right back down 3 points. And it's just oh, someone just pump faked the market. And then other times it's just news breaks. But yeah, I'm constantly evaluating those things. And the reason why I talked about the Charlotte, to bring it back, the Charlotte versus Pacers over. The Charlotte overs have seemed like one of these patterns that are forming that I'm all right, let me pick that up early so that when the pattern and the wave comes, I'm smiling and not chasing.
I really like that it's a much broader perspective of this. If you're in there day after day, if you're doing this, look for the patterns because there are patterns you start to pick up. Don't just be too deep in the matrix. There's some zooming out to do with that. I really like that approach. All right, let's go to the other best bet, Mavs -4. I know you said that you're hoping this number makes it through the night. It sounds like maybe it's already caught a little bit of movement there. So talk me through why you think it's on the move and why you like the side still.
Yeah, I think it could end up around Mavs -5, 4.5. So I don't think it's going to move too far. I think it'll stay around this 4, so we'll be okay here. But the Mavericks have played phenomenal with Anthony Davis. I think they're 4-0 with AD in the lineup. Now they get the Hawks on the second night of a back-to-back with travel into Dallas in this spot. And this is the one game on the slate that you can actually know that the guys that are on the injury report are probably going to go. It's going to be clean. The Mavericks might get back Lively. They might get back Gafford. So they might, I think PJ Washington is definitely going to play. So you look at all those things, it's okay, the Mavericks have been playing well when they're in these spots. It's a plus schedule and rest spot and travel spot for the Mavericks. And both of them are locked in to the respective 9-10 for the Mavericks in the Western Conference, 7-8 for the Hawks in the Eastern Conference. But they can both get, the Mavericks can get the 9 and the Hawks can hold on to the 7 depending on what happens over the next few days. As they're recording, they hold the 7. So that's home court advantage in a playoff game. That's
Yep.
not that's like a huge leg up in the game itself. It's also a huge moneymaker for your organization. So expect, everyone to be pressing for that, and those teams to want to try. So it's the only game with a spread less than 10 and double digits. And I will
Yeah.
take the home favorites. Despite wearing a shirt, I realize I have my woof on. I'm not on the dog. Give me the favorite.
Yeah, honestly, the favorites are so here. You mentioned single digits. That was the only single digit game. Here's some spreads for tomorrow: 10.5, 14.5, 12.5, 10.5, 17.5, 15 and 17.5. So it is. I mean, some of these slates are rough, man, and like we get it. We're here. We're doing bets. We'll still have some action. We've got bets for you here, but it definitely, I do think it is smart. I think it was last week you guys were talking through, scaling of bets and unit sizes, all of that stuff. At least go in with your eyes open. Maybe you don't even scale down, but just at least have your eyes open that the weird stuff can happen these days. I'm hoping that weird stuff doesn't happen in this game because my pick is the Thunder minus 14. This is supposed to be a time where they're kind of hitting the cruise, but like they should be in cruise control. They're almost locked up with the number 1 overall. Now the Cavs have lost a few, but man, they've won their last 10. They've covered their last 10. The market, I'd actually love to pick your brain about this because I think it's got to be pretty rare that the best team in basketball has the best ATS record as well. It's like this, they're so good that they can't make the spread big enough for them. They won their last 4 games by a combined 86 points, and now they're fully healthy. They actually have, basically everyone back. I think Aaron Wiggins is the only key rotation player who's not going to be playing on Wednesday. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a middle of the day, J-Dub, or maybe Shea hasn't gotten a few times. So we're not laying mortgages on these ones here because weird stuff can happen. But if we get to the final line here, it's in that they're playing the Pistons, and we've got Cade, who is now doubtful. He's officially out. And the Thunder are indeed rolling their whole crew. I'm going to like this number, up to around that 16, where I think it's probably on the move. It's already, at 15 at some books. I think it's going to end up probably in that 16-ish range. Pistons will be without Isaiah Stewart, Ron Holland, and Marcus Sasser. Those guys got in that big old fun brawl the other day we got to see. I saw some slander online. I think there's a lot of people out there who are like, beef stew, all he ever does, the only highlights I see of him are fighting, which is it is a little bit fair. He's also secretly one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. He's actually a very underrated defender. And I think in a game like this, especially, Holland and Stewart, and not surprising here, they're kind of the energy guys. They maybe brought a little bit too much energy in the fight the other night, but they are the kind of guys who are going to keep you in a game. If you're down double digits, they keep fighting. The last time they played the Thunder, they covered in the fourth quarter by winning the fourth quarter. To me, it feels like one of these games where the Thunder they're going to get out to a massive lead. Maybe you want to tackle this first half. It is a really big number, I get, if you're scared off a little, but I think 14 is right in that range. The Thunder win these blowout games, but they don't really get backdoored all that often. Clearly, they've won. They've covered 10 straight. So I'm going to be on the Thunder here. What are your thoughts on this play, Fiddle? And do you see the market moving one way or the other? And what are your thoughts in general on the game?
So I played the Thunder myself. I see what you're saying. Maybe you get a bogus OKC injury that comes down the pipeline, but with Cade doubtful, I mean, the asymmetric risk more lies on the Pistons side in that line going to 16.5, like you said. So I thought it was worth it to jump on it at 13.5. At 14, I would still play it. You said a few other things that I think are worth mentioning. Generally, the best teams, and there's always 1 or 2 best teams in the league that also totally clear against the spread, and there's always 1 or 2 dogs that have terrible records that are amazing against the spread.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I think just talent wins out in the NBA generally, and so when some of these teams are just so much better, they just smack teams around. We saw it with the Celtics last year. We've seen it with the Cavaliers, our great ATS this year as well. So not surprised to see OKC doing what they're doing. I'm surprised to see no one's scared. Apparently all the talk that no one's scared to take them on in the playoffs, and people aren't going to duck that series. They are. I feel more confident in OKC getting through the West than I do any team getting through the East, whether you're a Boston or a Cleveland person. I think that matchup is more daunting to each other than any. I'm down, and I think Clippers are the sleeper Western team, right? Or maybe the Lakers, but they don't have a complete team without the bigs, and OKC has double bigs and so much depth, and just just this OKC team is one of the best teams I've ever seen. So, and their coach is fantastic. So, I love OKC. I'll play them. They're like playable to any number type of squad, and don't mind backing them here as a little hat tip to our retired goat in the game, J Money.
Oh
Is
yeah.
is this an OKC trifecta? A little first quarter, a halftime, and full game OKC spot?
I like that a lot. I think this is absolutely one of those spots. Do you have the line up for that? I can vamp for a second if you can pull it up quickly.
Yeah, I could pull it up.
All right, I'm gonna vamp by saying I wanted to do this after best bets. I'll move it up really quick. I want to congratulate you. It's not officially over yet, but I don't know if we'll get to pod again before that. Our regular season wins draft. I think you have locked this in. You incredible finish, locked in 5-0, and Raptors again lost. I think you're going to get the full 6-0. Now, it's looking like our buckets crew as a whole is going to do very well. Looking like Matt Moore's going to go 4-2, Brian Fonseca is going to go 4-2, I'm going to go 4-2. But 6-0, Fids, talk to me. That's an impressive performance.
For the guy who doesn't like futures,
Exactly. Start in these waters. The water's warm, man. Come on in.
That one is always my favorite market because you get -110s on both sides, and the market stays up the whole season. So there's outs, there's ways to double down, and all those. It's a low hold. So all of my nerdy market things are like I could play win totals. I will say like 6-0. Yeah, that has a bit of luck in there. Did I expect to go 3-3 or 4-2?
These are clearing.
Yeah, no, they crushed, right? I will say that doing that exercise, because we made it into a game where you had to go like plus or -10. So I was looking for outliers. I was looking for variables. It had me explore the market. I actually went and placed like 4 of those in addition to my futures. So I've destroyed on win totals this year, actually, and that's great. So thank you guys in return for making me a part of that game, because I actually have a nice little bankroll boost coming toward me. And some of them have already just outright cashed. I think 5 of them. I think all four of the ones that I actually already bet outright cash.
There's nothing better than this time of year. You start to have the FanDuel account. You're just like, oh, this popped up today. Oh, I get these winnings, this cash. And then the final day of the season, for me, who's like, a futures fiend, that's like, I tie up way too much of my bankroll. The end of the season, it's like, oh, I'm taking myself out to dinner. This is a beautiful day. So, all right, I think we wrap it there. I think we gave, we got 3 good bets for you. Hopefully a little bit of banter about this time of year and how Fiddle approaches it and just kind of the wonkiness. But, we're in here. We give you 3 best bets. We'll recap them real quick. Fiddle, you want to say your 2 again, and then I'll recap mine, and we'll hit the road.
Yeah, Indy versus Hornets over 225 and Mavericks -4.
Perfect. And I have the Thunder -14, and that will do it for this week's best bet Wednesday edition. Thank you all, and let's get buckets.